Digital transformations can be complex endeavors, but they don't need to be. There's some really simple things you can do that are low cost and high value to help make your digital transformation more successful. But what are the 5 things you can do as a digital transformation hack in your deployment? That's what I want to talk about here today. My name is Eric Kimberly. I'm the CEO of Third Stage Consulting. We're an independent consulting firm that helps clients throughout the world with their digital transformation endeavors. And when we're helping clients through their digital transformations, we find that, of course, these initiatives are complex. They can be difficult. There's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of risks. But there's some really little things that are low cost, high value, low risk, things that you can do to make your project more successful. And so what I want to do today is dive into 5 digital transformation hacks that are really easy to do that are going to exponentially increase the odds of success for your digital transformation. Before we dive too far into today's content, I want to invite you to learn a little bit more about Third Stage Consulting, who we are and what we do. I've included a link to a video right here that describes Third Stage in a bit more detail. It talks about our story, our history, our philosophy, our clients, our service offerings, and that sort of thing. But in general, what Third Stage Consulting does is we're an independent and tech-agnostic consulting provider. We help clients through their entire digital transformation life cycles, beginning with digital strategy, software evaluation and selection, all the way through and including implementation planning, implementation readiness, and the actual implementation itself. We're technology agnostic, so we only represent our clients' best interests. We do not represent software vendors. But having said that, we work very closely with software vendors, all the leading players that you can imagine we've worked with, both in helping clients evaluate and select them, but also in helping clients implement those solutions as well. So we have a very broad, objective, agnostic view of the market that is meant to really represent your interest as you go through your digital transformation. I also encourage you to scan this QR code right here to get access to our resource center. This resource center has a ton of information, a ton of ebooks that are free. You have access to top 10 software rankings, playbooks for how to make your project more successful, guides to change management, YouTube videos, all kinds of stuff that are going to help you through your digital transformation. So I encourage you to scan this QR code to get access to those resources. And please feel free to reach out to me directly to brainstorm ideas about your project. Even if it's just informally, you want to bounce around some ideas and get some informal advice, I'd be happy to spend some time with you. So feel free to reach out to me. I've included my contact information below. You can also find it in the description field of this video as well. The first digital transformation hack that is likely to make your transformation exponentially more successful is to focus on executive alignment before you really get into your digital transformation. And the reason for this is because if your executives are not on the same page or they have differing views of how your digital transformation should look, or worse yet, what direction the organization as a whole is going, then you're creating headwinds that are very difficult, if not impossible, to overcome. So in other words, we want to make sure our executive team is rowing in the same direction, has realistic expectations, and has a clear vision of what it is they want to get out of this digital transformation. Then and only then, once they have that clarity, then we can start to articulate that and communicate that clarity to the rest of the organization, including the project team that's going to be responsible for executing and deploying whatever the digital transformation is to you. Now, you may be asking yourself, what does executive alignment mean? And I want to share with you a couple resources that'll help you dive into this in more detail. First is the graphic you see in front of you. This is our executive alignment framework that we facilitate with our clients. And you can actually learn more about this graphic here by diving into my video on my YouTube channel that goes into executive alignment in a lot more detail. And you can find that introduction or overview of executive alignment on this video right here. And in that video, I unpack that graphic in a bit more detail and explain how to facilitate executive alignment. But in the meantime, I'll summarize for you what exactly it means. Executive alignment is not necessarily just asking the question, are we all on the same page with whether or not we want to do this digital transformation? But instead, we're going a level deeper and asking, what does this digital transformation mean to us as an organization? And how is it going to help us accomplish our strategic goals and objectives as an organization? And this is where you get a lot of varying opinions, even as an executive team. Even if your executive team is only 5 or 7 people, you're probably going to get 5 or 7 different views of what your technology initiative means or could mean to your organization. And this is where it becomes very important to understand the trade-offs and the decisions that need to be made strategically around things such as, do we want a single ERP system that might limit our flexibility, or do we want a best-of-breed solution that might better address our needs but then creates integration issues? That's just one very detailed example of a decision that needs to be made that sounds like something that a project manager or a project team should make, but in reality, that's a decision that should be made by the executive team. And there's dozens of decisions just like this that need to be made by the executive team so that they can ensure that the overall project has the parameters and the guardrails and the governance in place to support the overall goals and objectives. So the first hack in making your transformation successful is to ensure that you have this executive alignment. The next thing you can do as a hack to ensure that your digital transformation is successful is to spend a good deal of time up front early in your project on business requirements and business process documentation. In other words, clearly defining and documenting what it is you want your future state to be operationally. Now, what happens here a lot of times is that software vendors or your internal project team might say, why do we need to bother with that? We're going to deploy new technology. Let's just figure out what the new technology is. The new technology will present us with the business processes that we need to run our business. And this is a very flawed assumption and a very flawed strategy. Reason being that most technology today is very flexible, and there's a million different decisions you need to make when you're deploying any one of these ERP or enterprise technologies that you might be deploying. So if you don't have a clear understanding of what it is you want your processes to be, what ends up happening is you end up spinning your wheels trying to make a decision while the meter is running on your project. So time's ticking, you're spending more and more budget every day that goes by that you're trying to make these key decisions that you could have just made up front and saved yourself a lot of time and money later on. So having clear definition and clear documentation around what your future state processes are and what your business requirements are is very important. And if you're looking for more information, more of a deeper dive into what business requirements are, you can watch this video on my YouTube channel that talks about what exactly business requirements are. It's sort of an intro to business requirements. So check out this video if you want a deeper dive understanding of what business requirements are. But regardless, it's important to recognize that business requirements are very important to help ensure that you keep your project on track and also to ensure that the project that you deliver, the technology and process improvements you deliver, map back to the business requirements, which, by the way, those business requirements should map back to the executive alignment that was initially done that I made in my previous point. So business requirements are a second important digital transformation hack that you can deploy on your initiative. Once an organization has selected new technology, there's a level of excitement and momentum that you want to retain, you want to build on. And the problem with that momentum and excitement is that oftentimes the organization just wants to jump in. They want to dive in and start building technology. Just start building stuff, let's start getting it out there. Software vendors pressuring you to do the same thing because they'll make more money if you do that. So you have all this pressure to just start deploying without really taking the time up front to do a more detailed and a more thorough understanding of your implementation plan. Now, your implementation plan is not just how you're going to deploy technology, it's also how you're going to manage business process improvements, how you're going to manage organizational change, how you're going to manage the architecture of this overall solution you're deploying, how you're going to integrate different systems, how you're going to manage data, how you're going to migrate the data, how you're going to leverage AI and analytics in your new solution. These are all examples of things that are outside the realm of a core technology deployment and part of a broader implementation that needs to be considered. And so the more time you spend up front focusing on planning for the implementation, the more time you're going to save later on. In fact, we find that the most successful organizations are the ones that take their time to get that alignment and that implementation planning up front so that they can ultimately speed things up and deploy much faster than they would have otherwise. This solution is going to be lower cost, lower risk, and lower headaches overall for you than the organizations that fail to take this tip. So implementation planning is one of the most important hacks that you can deploy on your digital transformation. And if you'd like to learn more about it, I encourage you to download our Phase 0 checklist. And Phase 0 is another word for implementation planning. Phase 0 is that phase where you get everything planned and mobilized, you get your resources in place, you've got your plan in place, your overall strategy. And that Phase 0 checklist is something you can download from our website. You can scan the QR code in front of you to access that for free. Another hack to increase your odds of digital transformation success is going to be an organizational change assessment. And this is where we really get a lay of the land understanding of our current culture, our current perceptions within the organization, how we communicate, how people perceive leadership, how people collaborate across teams. And these fundamental understandings are really important to help us identify where the potential sources of organizational resistance and risk are going to come from. And the key assumption here is that there is going to be organizational resistance and organizational risk. No matter how excited your team may be, or no matter how excited they tell you they may be, once you start to unpack and articulate what the changes are to the organization, people will inevitably push back on the overall project. So it's very important that we assume that there is going to be resistance to change. There's going to be organizational risk. Now let's identify proactively what those risks are so that we can start to get ahead of it and address those. If we wait until we see and feel the resistance, then chances are it's too late, and now we're talking about major project delays along the way. So if we can do an organizational readiness assessment up front, use that as an input to create an organizational change strategy that's highly prescriptive and targeted to who we are as an organization, that's going to save us a lot of time and money later on, and ultimately it's going to lower the risk and ensure that we have a higher ROI on our overall transformation. Now, if you'd like to learn more about organizational assessments and just organizational change management in general, I encourage you to check out this playlist right here. This playlist contains a number of organizational change videos. There's even a deep dive 3-hour training course in that playlist that talks about organizational change management and everything you need to know about what you should be doing as part of your organizational assessment and the follow-up organizational change activities. So check out that playlist for more information on that. But the point here, in the meantime, is an organizational readiness is a great low-cost way to materially reduce the risk of your project. Now, the last hack to make your digital transformation more successful is to simply ask a lot of questions. When we're on a project team, we tend to get heads down. We're trying to meet milestones. We're trying to get through that next round of testing. We're trying to manage a million different things. We have a lot of balls in the air, and it can be overwhelming. So it's really easy for us to stick our head in the sand and just put our heads down and work on the project. But oftentimes what we miss is we don't look up and look around at the organization and see what's happening. How is this project affecting or going to affect the organization? And how can we ensure that the process changes stick? How can we ensure that the organizational changes stick? How can we ensure that we're delivering an overall solution that delivers value? And to do that, it's really important to pull our heads out of the project and walk the floors, ask lots of questions of other team members, use your change agents and some of your super users that you might be engaging with on your project to find out the lay of the land. How are people responding? How are people feeling about the project? What are some of the risks and concerns? How is the executive team feeling about the project? What are some of their risks and concerns? How are we tracking on user acceptance testing? What is the status report showing? And really objectively looking at the health of the project to ensure that we're uncovering risk and we're mitigating risk along the way, rather than assuming just because we don't see the risk that it must not exist. So it's very important that we step back, ask a lot of questions, assess, understand, in addition to the work we're doing day to day on the project. And that's one of the biggest hacks to ensure that your project is successful. So I hope you found this information useful. And if you'd like more information about digital transformation and best practices, I encourage you to read my new book called The Final Countdown. It's a book that I published to talk about digital strategy and how to make your project successful. You can learn more about that book or buy it by scanning the QR code in front of you, or you can go to thefinalcountdown.com. If you'd like a free resource, you can also go to our website and download our ebook, which is a condensed version of The Final Countdown in many ways. And in that ebook, we talk about lessons from 1,000 digital transformations. And there's 20 lessons and 20 takeaways that we've gathered over 20 plus years of helping clients through their digital transformations. You can read that book for free on our website by scanning the QR code in front of you, or you can go to the links below. So I hope you found this information useful and hope you have a great day. Sweet, nailed it. Another hack to ensure that your digital transformation is successful, or that you, let me say that again. No bloopers for that one. It was perfect. Perfect edit.